direct relationship between the tens of millions of dollars donated to the Clinton Foundation that allowed contractors to sell billions of dollars worth of arms to countries that were on human rights suspect lists.
The UN's head of humanitarian affairs has condemned these Saudi-led airstrikes. Tens of thousands of people have been injured, and the UN reckons around half of those killed in this war are civilians.
You see what's going on here? This woman who wants to be your president, who's going around pandering to all the special interests, the liberal special interest groups, she's getting millions and millions of dollars funneled in to her Clinton Foundation so that her State Department could then approve all these weapons deals. Now, those weapons are not just going to sit there in a hangar. Those bullets are not just going to sit inside of a gun. Those are weapons of war designed to kill. Hillary Clinton is taking blood money from all these nations to greenlight these deals so that the military-industrial complex can sell these weapons of war to these nations. And that's according to the International Business Times investigation. The gall, the in-your-face activities of this woman are just... I can't believe that people aren't even up in arms about this. That her supporters are like, oh, whatever.
Talking about Hillary Clinton, she's under fire for the Clinton Foundation, apparently getting foreign funding. This is according to their own data. Jen, Republicans are basically chiding Clinton over these foreign donations, but what are the implications for the voters?
Well, it's a rare circumstance where the Republicans are totally right. I have no beef with the foundation. I'm sure it does wonderful work. But the idea that you would take $10 to $25 million from a foreign government and not be influenced by them is preposterous. Even if you think Hillary Clinton is a saint and she will not be influenced by that money at all, good for her. But it at least gives the appearance of corruption. And certainly Saudi Arabia and the other countries are giving it not because they care about human rights. If Saudi Arabia cared about human rights, they'd have a lot of other ways to show it. They're doing it to influence Hillary Clinton, who might be the next president of the United States, and that's patently obvious.
And it's also countries who are close neighbors, have perfectly fine human rights records. Canada, for instance, their Foreign Affairs Department apparently promoting the Keystone XL pipeline. They've donated money to the Clinton Foundation. Governments that aren't under criticism for sort of double standards, a neighbor like Canada, how much effect could they actually have on any kind of lobbying within the U.S.?
Right. I mean, if I'm Hillary Clinton, by the way, on the issue of Saudi Arabia, remember that the point of the Clinton initiative is to push for rights for everybody, to get health care and all these wonderful things throughout the world. I'd say to Saudi Arabia, keep your $25 million, let women drive. But that's probably a deal she's not willing to make. Okay, on to Canada. It's not Canada that's giving the money. It's a government agency specifically in charge of the Keystone XL pipeline. Now, why do you think they gave $480,000 to a person who has an excellent chance of being the next president? To get it approved. Of course, why else would they do it? Anyone who thinks otherwise is being ridiculous.
Yes, I mean, Libya was a different kind of calculation, and we didn't lose a single person.
know exactly what happened in Benghazi in the first place. On the night of September 11, 2012, a group of Islamist militia members attacked a U.S. diplomatic outpost in Benghazi, Libya. They killed 4 Americans, including the U.S. ambassador to Libya, Chris Stevens, who was visiting from Tripoli that week. The city was the center of the US-backed rebellion that toppled Muammar Gaddafi the year before, and a number of armed groups had emerged in the aftermath. It was a dangerous environment. However, the US had no intelligence suggesting a specific attack was imminent. At 9:42 p.m., the militiamen easily breached the gates of the compound and set fire to the building. A subsequent State Department review blamed systemic failures at the department's senior levels for the mission's poor security. Stevens had previously requested more security and not gotten it. In the chaos of the attack, U.S. security officers were separated from Stevens and Sean Smith, another State Department official. The 2 men died of smoke inhalation later that night. A team from the nearby CIA annex arrived and engaged militants before taking survivors back to the annex a mile away at 11:15. 40 minutes later, the attackers laid siege to the annex as well. The assault resumed around 5:15 a.m., with 2 more Americans, security agents Tyrone Woods and Glenn Doherty, killed by mortars firing on the annex.
There was no support. And having seen the film this morning, if there's one theme that emerges, that is it. That they were left alone. There was no one to back you up. Throughout the film, you see heroes assuming, understanding, based on their experience, that the American military will be there to back them up and support them. And help never came.
I mean, for us, for the military to come and support us, the agency, we wouldn't expected it. But the fact that the U.S. ambassador had been missing probably for about 5 hours before they actually officially, he was considered dead, and they didn't send anything or attempt to push anything that way is pretty crazy. I mean, I would never expect him just to leave the ambassador out there to hang out.
And what about all the CIA agents who were in the annex?
Again, my view is they didn't even try. And that's where the problem, and that's where the film does a great job of showing that even though the head shed or the headquarters elements with the Department of Defense were getting assets and moving them, that it eventually just stopped for some reason. We still don't know why.
What did you expect would come? What did you think would show up? Who or what?
The biggest thing I think we really needed was mainly air support. I mean, any kind of...
Just something to fly over.
How hard would that have been?
Not hard. Again, people that see the movie and read the book know that it wouldn't have been difficult.
And all we sent was an unmanned drone.
And it wasn't helpful at all either.
But I want to go back because one of the things that gets lost, I think, in the coverage of Benghazi too is the loss of our ambassador, who was portrayed in the film as a good man.
Very good.
Who was just trying to do the right thing, who had begged for security increases there and was denied those security increases. And they had in fact been diminished repeatedly leading up to September 11th. And that's another thing that the investigators have found, which was he had no business being in Benghazi on 9/11. The administration should not have allowed it. And if they were going to send him, they should have sent him with proper security. But he was killed that night. And you went to the consulate, the very facility which he was killed. You kept running in to try to get him, right?
Multiple times.
And the smoke was too much. Describe that moment where you knew he was in there, you didn't yet know whether he was dead.
You know, you couldn't really, I mean, I was on my belly for the last time I went in before we got counter-assaulted on the consulate, and their smoke was still down there, and you could still only see about maybe 2 feet in front of your face, and you know, it was just so thick and so hot. It's just like being in a brick oven. I mean, you're just sweating constantly, and it was extreme heat and just coughing, and because you can't really hold your breath because one, your adrenaline's pumping, and you know, you've been running around for the last hour, you know, fighting your way on and searching, and so, I mean, it was pretty intense.
Do you believe that if you had been allowed to go when you first said, send us, and the radio calls came in from the consulate saying, help us, help us, help us, do you believe there would have been any chance to save?
Oh, yeah.
They'd be alive
today, 100%.
The congressional investigators concluded there was no stand-down order.
I don't know where they got
Well, it's because they couldn't read his lips from the drone.
That's just silly. I mean, there was, for us.
I mean, Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama and others rely on those conclusions, saying, you know, they've really been cleared because investigators concluded there was no standout.
Well, it's kind of funny, everything that we testified to, you know, they agreed with us 100%. I mean, from pretty much from us eating a candy bar to, you know, shooting all of our ammo, but for some reason they don't want to believe us that we were told to stand down.
Sean Smith, Patricia Smith, the woman in that video, is here with me for her exclusive reaction to Hillary Clinton. Mrs. Smith, welcome.
Hi there.
So Hillary Clinton said you were wrong when you said that she lied. Were you?
I was there and we were nose to nose at the coffin ceremony. She lied to me. She told me it was the fault of the video. I said, are you sure? And she says, yes, that's what it was. It was the video. And she knew full well it wasn't at that time. And then she says she was going to check, and if it's any different, she would call me back. She would let me know. She has never once spoken to me or her office. The only thing I ever got out of them is that I am not a member of the immediate family, and I don't need to know.
What do you mean you're not a member of the immediate family? You're his mother.
Well, that's what I said, and they don't care. And they still just go on with their lying little ways, saying that I'm the one that's wrong. I heard that. I know what she said. I don't lie. She's a proven liar, and I call her out for that. I know what I heard.
When you say you know what you heard, she actually came to you at the funeral and spoke to you and said that it was the video. She personally said this to you?
She not only personally said this, this was a coffin ceremony. She came up to me, I talked to her, she put her arms around me, and she told me that it was the fault of the video. Then I went around the room talking to the other people, asking them, what was it? What is the problem? What started it? Why is my son dead? And I talked to Obama, who said it was the video. I talked to Panetta, who said it was the video. And these I was nose to nose with them. They told me personally.
Did you believe when they told you that it was the video?
What?
Did you believe at that time that it was the video?
I kept asking what it was, because I didn't know what it was. I didn't know anything about a video.
So now when Hillary Clinton gets on stage and says that you are wrong, how does that make you feel?
Well, that doesn't surprise me. Not at all, from the way she's been talking. She has never, and her department will not speak to me. They still have not spoken to me. Not once has anybody ever contacted me other than to tell me I was not a member of the immediate family, and they don't have to tell me. Now, I'm still waiting for her. I want Hillary to talk to me personally and tell me why there was no security there when they were asked for it. I know this because I spoke to my son.
And what did your son say to you?
He says he was really scared because he saw the 17 people, 17 November, whatever it was, that they were walking around taking pictures, and he was afraid. He says it didn't look very good, and he was afraid. And that he asked for security, and he was turned down.
And this was on the day of the attacks?
Yes.
Well, yes, the whole night.
Well, I don't know why that's funny. I mean, did you have any in-person briefings? I don't find it funny at all.
I'm sorry, a little note of levity at 7:15.
Well, I mean, the reason I say it's not funny is because it went well into the night when our folks on the ground were still in danger. So I don't think it's funny.
Actual experts on Libya in the State Department. So, if there's no evidence for a video-inspired protest, then where'd the false narrative start? Started with you, Madam Secretary. At 10:08 on the night of the attack, you released this statement. Some have sought to justify the vicious behavior as a response to inflammatory material posted on the internet. At 10:08, with no evidence. At 10:08, before the attack is over. At 10:08, Tyrone Woods and Glenn Doherty are still on the roof of the annex fighting for their lives. The official statement of the State Department blames a video. Why?
During the day on September 11th, as you did mention, Congressman, there was a very large protest against our embassy in Cairo. Protesters breached the walls. They tore down the American flag. And it was of grave concern to us because the inflammatory video had been shown on Egyptian television, which has a broader reach than just inside Egypt. And if you look at what I said, I referred to the video that night in a very specific way. I said some have sought to justify the attack because of the video. I used those words deliberately, not to ascribe a motive to every attacker, but as a warning to those across the region that there was no justification for further attacks. And in fact, during the course of that week, we had many attacks that were all about the video. We had people breaching the walls of our embassies in Tunis and Khartoum. We had people, thankfully not Americans, dying at protests, but that's what was going on, Congressman.
Secretary Clinton, I appreciate most of those attacks were after the attack on the facility in Benghazi. You mentioned Cairo. It was interesting what else Ms. Nuland said that day. She said, if pressed by the press, if there's a connection between Cairo and Benghazi, she said this: there's no connection between the two. So here's what troubles me. Your experts knew the truth. Your spokesperson knew the truth. Greg Hicks knew the truth. But what troubles me more is I think you knew the truth. I want to show you a few things here. You're looking at an email you sent to your family. Here's what you said. At 11 o'clock that night, approximately 1 hour after you told the American people it was a video, you say to your family, 2 officers were killed today in Benghazi by an Al-Qaeda-like group. You tell the American people one thing, you tell your family an entirely different story. Also, on the night of the attack, you had a call with the president of Libya. Here's what you said to him. Ansar al-Sharia is claiming responsibility. Interesting, Mr. Katala, one of the guys arrested and charged, actually belonged to that group. And finally, most significantly, the next day, within 24 hours, you had a conversation with the Egyptian Prime Minister. You told him this: we know the attack in Libya had nothing to do with the film. It was a planned attack, not a protest. Let me read that one more time. We know, not we think, not it might be, we know the attack in Libya had nothing to do with the film. It was a planned attack, not a protest. State Department experts knew the truth. You knew the truth. That's not what the American people got. Again, the American people want to know why.
We are working to determine the precise motivations and methods of those who carried out this assault. Some have sought to justify this vicious behavior along with the protest that took place at our embassy in Cairo yesterday as a response to inflammatory material posted on the internet. Information developing, was the situation fluid? Would we reach conclusions later that weren't reached initially? And I appreciate the...
Madam Secretary, do you disagree with me that a simple phone call to those evacuees to determine what happened wouldn't have ascertained immediately that there was no protest? I mean, that was a piece of information that could have been easily obtained.
Well, but Senator,
within hours, if not days.
Senator, when you're in these positions, the last thing you want to do is interfere with any other process going on.
I realize that's a good excuse.
Number two, no, it's the fact. Number two, I would recommend highly you read both what the ARB said about it and the classified ARB, because even today there are questions being raised. Now, we have no doubt they were terrorists, they were militants, they attacked us, they killed our people. But what was going on and why they were doing what they were doing?
No. Again, we were misled that there were supposedly protests and then something sprang out of that, an assault sprang out of that. And that was easily ascertained that was not the fact. And the American people could have known that within days, and they didn't know that.
With all due respect, the fact is we had 4 dead Americans. Was it because of a protest, or was it because of guys out for a walk one night who decided they'd go kill some Americans? What difference at this point does it make?